Forget all reasons that it won't work and believe the one reason that it will. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Welcome once again today to the third session of Cancer Awareness Month. Before going into the depth of today's session, let me tell you a short but a motivating story. Story of growth and discovery. Story of beating cancer. Cancer started the fight, but I will end it. Such is our speaker for today. And this story is somewhat revolves around her. Her journey of growth and discovery began with her mother's breast cancer in 1980 and was deepened with her husband Vijay when her husband Vijay was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2001. She supplemented her intensive study of yoga with the therapeutic principles of Chinese medicine, Western psychology, creative movement, and dance. As their primary caregiver, she has successfully navigated cancer with them and now shares their learnings and experiences so that others may benefit it. Let me take this opportunity to introduce our today's speaker, Ms. Nilima Bhat, a visionary in the fields of personal mastery, leadership, gender equality, and well being. Her intensive and pioneering body of work is encompassed in her two books, Shakti Leadership, Embracing Feminine and Masculine Power in Business, and My Cancer is Me, The Journey from Illness to Wholeness. Together, they outline new and cutting edge holistic and integrated approaches to DEINB, leadership, and resilience. She is currently building the Shakti Fellowship jointly certified, jointly certified with the University of Santiago and WIN with a mission to create 100,000 women changemakers by 2030, the Truth and Reconciliation Movement for healing collective trauma and leading harmonious interdependence at a planetary level. Psychoneuroimmunology (PNI) establishes the link between stress, immunity, illness, and is the science behind mind, body, and medicine. In this eye-opening session, Nilima Bhat will draw from the work of renowned doctors and researchers to help us understand cancer's strong correlation with unresolved psychological stress. Trust yourself. You have survived a lot and you will survive whatever is coming. So, with this quote, I would like to hand over the screen to ma'am so that she can bless us with the immense knowledge and experiences that she has learned today from her life. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, Harshali, and thank you so much for such a nice, detailed introduction. And hello, viewers and students and faculty of the Sadhu Vaswani Institute of Management Studies. It's a delight to be here, and I'm so glad that I was invited to speak on a subject that is really close to my heart. As this month is called the Cancer Awareness Month, I think 4th of April, Cancer Day. It's nice to see that this year on social media, people are just taking the whole month of cancer or the whole month of February to bring awareness to cancer, including your institution. As was said in the introduction, my journey with cancer, with my loved ones, has been a long, long one. And when my husband got diagnosed in 2001 December, we were in London. He was 40 years old and I was 35. We had two children. Our son was 11, our daughter was 8 then. And obviously the diagnosis threw us into a complete disarray. We had to reinvent our lives all over again. We had to look at how are we going to secure our health and Vijay's health particularly in a way that doesn't make the cancer recur. And I have a background in life sciences and biochemistry from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. And it was wonderful how my mentor, Father Lancy Pereira, who was the principal of St. Xavier's College in the 70s and early 80s, he wrote me a letter to say, I heard about Vijay's cancer and can I come and spend 10 days with you in London I'm on my way to Germany, and I would like to share with you what I have learned in the past 10 years, as I have been going every summer to Germany to work with cancer. And I believe I have a view on understanding the disease that may be of interest to you and may provide hope for you as well. And that really began an incredible journey for us. I truly owe him Vijay's life and our life. Father Lancy Pereira was not just a Jesuit priest, he was also a PhD in microbiology from Cornell. He was a musicologist, he's also a mystic. He truly had this very holistic approach to understanding disease. And in Germany, he had been working with Gestalt psychotherapists. And what he shared with us completely opened our eyes. And it it was also because I had already gone to a Chinese medicine doctor. My husband's cancer had not spread, even though he had two tumors in the colon. So he had his surgery, he had the colon removed. But we had a choice whether we were going to take chemotherapy or not. If he took chemotherapy, he had a 30% chance of recurrence, and if he didn't take it, he had a 30% chance of recurrence. If he took it, he had a 28% chance of recurrence. So it was such a small figure that we wanted to look at other ways in which he can be helped to secure his health and not have to take the toxicity of chemotherapy. And we went to Chinese medicine because by this time I was also into yoga. I was a very serious yoga practitioner. And our yoga school introduced us to Chinese medicine. There is a doctor who was both a Western trained allopath as well as a Chinese medicine doctor. And he reminded us that don't worry, the body is a self-healing system. You have an internal doctor, which is your immune system. It is trained to flush out all your disease-causing cells. Now, the body routinely produces cancers when the cells are naturally growing and multiplying. Every now and then, a mutation takes place, an aberration takes place. It's just one of the things that nature does. But nature also has given us this internal system, which is our immune system, that goes around the whole body and catches and flushes out any disease agent, not just microbes, bacteria, and virus, but also internal disease agents such as potential cancer cells. So therefore, according to our Chinese medicine doctor, he said, my job is to help your body recover its full immunity. Once you can recover your full immunity, your own natural healing system will know how to fight your disease and make sure it doesn't come back again. So this was a good piece of information we had. But the other massive piece of information, the rest of the full story, came to us from Father Lancy Pereira. And he gave us very profound scientific and psychological and spiritual aspects to consider when we are looking at disease. So in a nutshell, it is the understanding that why did our immunity get compromised when we developed cancer? Why didn't the immune system work? Why did it break down? Why did it get compromised and not catch the cancer and flush it out before it could take hold? And the answer is stress, that our immune system breaks down under stress. And that's the whole discovery of mind-body medicine, which is a whole subject you can Google and look up. But mind-body medicine is based on the science of psychoneuroimmunology, which says your psychology, which is your emotions and your thoughts, will transmit through your neurology, your brain and your nervous system, and put out neurotransmitters, which then affect your immunity. Why? Because if you are too stressed, then the body launches an immune response, believing that somehow the body is under attack. When actually it's not physically under attack, you're only psychologically awash with stressful thoughts and emotions. But because the body doesn't know the difference, it's still acting on its old jungle evolution of the physical animal body, that somewhere there is a threat to our survival. So the body launches an immune response and tries to fight on many fronts. Now, because the body has been subjected to so much stress through our thoughts and our emotions, because we live such stressful lives, the immune system gets confused, doesn't know how long to fight, and can break down. And when the immune system breaks down, you develop disease. Okay, so it's as simple as that. So it was fascinating for us to therefore look at what are the psychological factors, what are the psycho-spiritual factors in our life that could have led to disease, right? And today, when I'm speaking to women, I'm going to focus on women's psychology and how that can both be a creator of your health, or it can be a creator of your disease, including cancer. And I hope what you will take away from today is to learn to understand how to secure your health and how to make sure you are going to avoid the possibility of disease. Okay. Um, Yesterday was Valentine's Day, right? And this whole theme of love is such a big one when it comes to women. And I was very happy to see that on social media, there was a lot of talk this year, not so much about the woman kind of saying, I love you to some man, but there was a lot of talk of self love, saying, I'm going to do self love or I'm going to do self care. And I was so happy to see that because it all begins there, right? Let me explain how. According to mind body medicine, the body is a canvas of our consciousness. What we are thinking and believing, our body will express. And actually, different parts of our body are related to different emotions. So, very specifically, like in Chinese medicine, for example, the lungs are related to sorrow. So if you have unresolved sorrow in your life, there is a chance it will somatize into disease in the lungs. Similarly, anger apparently goes to the liver. So if you have too many anger issues and you don't know how to process your anger in a healthy way, you don't know how to express it in a healthy way, and you don't end up suppressing it in an unhealthy way, but you know how to restrain yourself or to express yourself in a way that is appropriate, then your liver will be healthy. So if you go to a Chinese medicine doctor with liver issues, he will ask you, why are you being liverish? Meaning, why are you being so angry? Or have you suppressed your anger? So this is how Chinese medicine gave us a clue to look at how different parts of the body are related, are correlated to different kinds of emotions. So let's look at women's cancers. And I'm going to draw from the work of some extremely well recognized and well respected doctors, practitioners, clinicians, and researchers, such as Dr. Candice Pert, Drs. Carl Simonton, Caroline Meese, Detlefsen and Dahlke, Lawrence Lashan, Louise Hay, Temoshok and Dreher, and of course, traditional Chinese medicine that I was beginning to describe. So according to all these systems, there is a very interesting correlation to breasts and emotions. Okay, so when we look at what are women's cancers, they are related to breasts and then to the ovaries, the uterus, and the cervix, and so on. So interestingly, everything to do with the breasts, the emotions to do with breasts, I'm going to call these out to you. Please take a paper and pen and make note if any of these things apply to you. Okay. So when you're looking at the lines of inquiry, so symbolically, breasts have to do with mothering and nourishment, love and relationship, healing and forgiveness. Okay. Breasts have to do with femininity, the feminine principle, and a sense of fullness and contentment, being able to give generously of yourself, also to be able to sustain yourself and others. Okay, so this is what the breasts are about symbolically. Also, psychologically, they are about paying attention to say, am I smothering? Meaning, is there a refusal to nourish myself and over nourishing others? Do I have fear of loneliness or commitment? Um, am I following my heart and my heart's desire or not? Psychologically, breasts are also related to emotional vulnerability, betrayal, resentment, and bitterness, grief and anger, and a self centered sacrifice. Okay. This is what women unfortunately do a lot of. We've been socialized to give of ourselves and put our needs last. Psychologically, they're also related to denial and disconnection from the feminine principle. Sometimes, because of the patriarchy overvaluing masculine values and behaviors and suppressing or denying or devaluing everything that is feminine, sometimes women, in order to succeed in the world, end up denying their feminine side. And that too can create a blockage of life force and energy and create its own kind of stress. Because where stress happens, your natural healing system stops flowing because your energy stops flowing, your life force stops flowing. And when your life force gets blocked anywhere, you will have your immune system break down, and then you will have a disease taking hold in that area. So, some lines of inquiry for you to think about, and these should be red flags for you to pay attention to. Ask yourself, what or who in your life needs forgiveness or healing? Why are you withholding it? When do you feel loved? And when do you feel rejected or lonely? How do you balance nourishing others while also nourishing yourself? Which of these do you do first and why? When does mothering become smothering? Another question would be, in what ways do you deny or negate your own femininity? What aspects of the feminine do you most value or most look down upon? That too is unhealthy. And what are the triggers for you that make you feel taken for granted, or bitter, or betrayed, or even sometimes violated? How are you balancing nourishing others while also nourishing yourself? I call that out. In what aspects of your life do you feel abundant or overflowing? And where do you feel deficient or lacking? What is the hardest thing for you to accept as is? Are you able to self nurture? Are you able to receive love as much as you give love? Okay? Or are you blocked somewhere? So these are just some thoughts I wanted to put out there and start checking in with yourself, because as I explained, um, your your psychology is linked to your biology. This is the basis of mind body medicine. There is a wonderful book by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He did a lot of work with understanding the biology of that our belief system becomes our biology and expresses our biology. So I feel like taking a quick pause here, and I would love to see if there are any comments or questions coming in. Um, is there something, Harshali, you want to say, or should I proceed?
Ma'am, as of now, no questions. You can proceed.
Okay. So please take a nice deep breath, everyone. The material I'm calling out cannot be easy, but it is important enough to be life-saving. So please pay close attention. So now that we've talked about the breasts, they are very much connected to our ability to give love, receive love. And so they play a huge role in our relationships, or the other way around. The health of our relationships play a huge role in the health of our breasts. Okay? And when I was practicing an integrative medicine clinic in Bangalore, I used to help lots of cancer patients. And after a while, it becomes interesting where you start seeing these patterns. So when the women would come to me with breast cancer, and I would do an inventory of their life history, their life stance, and their lifestyle, it wasn't necessarily just not good eating or exercise. There were no physical stressors necessarily, but almost all of them would have some deep unresolved pain around their love relationships. And it could have to do with typically a spouse, a partner, sometimes with a child, and sometimes with a mother. Um, and so it right comes back to saying if the breasts represent nurturing and giving and loving, then where is that energy blocked for some reason? And we go through our lives with such dysfunctional relationships. I met so many people who came from unresolved relationships. There was so much entanglement in their family system. There was so much that lies unforgiven in their relationships. You know, there were estrangements, there were betrayals, there were strongly held resentments. So I started getting to understand that on one hand, negative emotions, stuck emotions can cause disease, but the good news equally, you can flip it, which is positive, healthy emotions can unlock our energy, get our immune system flowing back again. Our prana is nice and strong again. So our body knows how to return to health because the energy is flowing again. And when we can put positive emotions back into the system, then when you are emotionally awash in good feelings, your body slowly knows how to return to health. And what are these feelings? It's regardless of the specific kind of toxic experience or emotion or childhood wounding that you may still be carrying inside yourself. The good news is there are four basic positive things you can do and emotions you can feel that will be medicine for you, that will put your life back in a track to health. What are they? I call it laugh and let go, right? Love, accept, forgive, and let go. So if you're able to identify any particular wounding or trauma that has happened in your life, especially in your relationships, if we are looking at how to secure the health of our breasts, if you have discovered any such unresolved situation that you are holding on to, you have to learn how to love, accept, forgive, and let go. It's not so much for the other person who may seriously have done something that is wrong, and you need to be able to get justice for that in your own time and in your own way. But do not let that affect your psychological health and well-being. Okay, so learn first to let go that whole sense of holding on to the trauma of it. If you, in order to truly let go, you discover that you have to be able to forgive what happened. And even if you can't forgive the other person, can you forgive yourself for having allowed such a thing to have happened to you? Okay. And in order to be able to forgive yourself for what happened, you have to first know how to accept that it happened. Because very often we are in denial that something so terrible took place, and we don't even want to go there and consider it. So, acceptance is a big theme in our healing, in our psychological healing. And you will discover as you start working on acceptance and processing how to accept what happened, you will learn to have to love first. That you cannot really get to real forgiveness and acceptance until you can learn to love again, right? Because when you are feeling a state of love for yourself, then you feel resourced, you feel strong, you feel your Shakti back inside your body, you feel generous enough to be able to accept what happened and forgive what happened in order to let it go. So, coming back to our theme of Valentine's Day yesterday, this love, this idea of love, isn't some fluffy, superficial thing that we are unfortunately taught through our Hindi movies and our fairy tales that, oh, you women, you are incomplete until the knight in shining armor will come and then kiss you awake. And then somehow, when someone else brings love to you, your life will be complete. You will have an identity, and you will no longer be inferior in some way, right? So these are extremely negating belief systems around love that most of society has fed us. We have got it wrong. Yes, we all need love, but we don't have to look for it on the outside. In fact, it is rare to find it on the outside in any real and meaningful and sustainable way until you find it inside within yourself. Okay. And by that we mean you learn to caretake yourself. You become your own mother. Love yourself like a mother would. You learn to self love, right? Which is love yourself like a lover would. Do all those wonderful things to respect yourself, honor yourself, validate yourself, see yourself for who you truly are in the most loving way, the way you want another person to love you, as in a romantic relationship. Learn to give those um, acknowledgements and affirmations to your own self, not from a place of your ego, but truly from your deepest sense of self. Acknowledge the beauty and the goodness of who you are and see the goodness of who you are and love yourself for that. So, when you can truly become your own mother, become your own lover, then there is a good chance that you will be able to attract into your life the right kind of romantic partner, someone you truly want to be with, who's going to be able to give and take love in a way that is win-win, that is equitable, that is mutually respectful and honoring, and that is mature, okay, and doesn't leave you depleted or feeling unacknowledged and unseen. Okay. So I cannot stress this deeply enough. As women, we really value love and relationship, and we are always looking for a life partner to spend our life with and to grow old with, and this is true that success and good health in the long term are defined by good relationships. If you can have a good marriage or a good partnership um, in love, in a way that is your significant other, the relationship you have with a significant other in your life, that is perhaps the most satisfying and fulfilling thing, and what is defined as having had a good life. So love is important, but we will not get it in the right way if we haven't done the work of of becoming our own mother and our own lover first. So we have to put in that time to come into that kind of psychological maturity, right? I know this is hard to hear because we're all walking around like I'm, one part of a puzzle and someone else out there must be holding the other piece. And then when we come together, then life will be whole. But that really is not how it works. And certainly, if you want to secure your health and the health of your breasts, I also want to call out that many of us perhaps also worry that there is breast cancer in the family, and do I have a hereditary tendency for breast cancer, and does that mean I will have it in my life at some point because my mother had it or whatever. So the other important thing to know in psychoneuroimmunology and mind body medicine is that disease can only take hold if two things happen. One is if you have a tendency for it, but the other is there must be something that triggers that tendency, meaning some sort of an event takes place which causes so much trauma, so much stress, emotional or mental, that the the genes of disease fire and manifest. Okay, so the good news is just because you may have a tendency or a hereditary condition does not mean that you're going to manifest the disease. You can prevent the manifestation of the disease by making sure you do not carry unresolved emotional pain and trauma for too long. So, when things happen to you that leave you hurt or shocked or traumatized in some way, I hope in today's talk you will learn how to not let it fester beyond a point, to make sure you nip it in the bud, make sure you heal it and address it. Go get therapy if you have to. Go talk to a coach and work out your trauma, work out the emotional blockage, the negative feelings that are still sitting with you. You must feel a sense of sufficient okayness and move on from what happened and not stuff it down. Because if you simply stuff it down and compartmentalize it and get on with your life, what you have stuffed without having processed, without having digested fully, will eventually somatize as disease. So do not take your emotional and psychological pain and hurt and trauma and wounding lightly. It can be toxic, it can cause disease. So make sure you work it out and you heal by love, accept, forgiving, and letting go. In whatever form or shape you want to get that help, and professional help is always available for you. If we have time, or I'll also teach you a very simple technique called emotional empowerment technique, to how to release these blocked energies and blocked emotions out of our system. Again, I'll take a pause. Any questions, Harshali? Any insights?
Ma'am, the inputs that you are giving, I am actually still trying to assimilate them. But yes, I would like to ask that when you said the maturity needs to come, so is there any age that the maturity of handling these situations come, or is it that it needs to come with experience?
Very good question, Harshali. Uh, I would say, of course, life, you can't substitute experience. You have to go through life. But many people go through life, and life routinely gives you the painful events, but very few people process them and learn from them and make meaning from them. And instead, they end up just shutting it out and trying to cope by getting on with their life. So, always, there is always help available. And if you are too young, I would hope that you've had good adult parenting or mentoring around you available to have helped you. But if you have not had that, and if you are hearing a talk like this today, you can start today. And very honestly, I don't think, I mean, I know there are young people in coaching and therapy as early as 11, 12, 13 years of age. Soon as you start coming into puberty and becoming more, you moving into adolescence, you can begin from that time itself. Most of us come into our biological adulthood carrying a lot of childhood and adolescence traumas that have been unresolved. So that's okay. You can start now. I have noticed, though, that doing emotional work and emotional healing is so difficult and painful. We so fear facing that emotion. We have to tell ourselves that, remember, it is just either a thought or it's just an emotion. It's not going to kill you. It's not some physical axe that is coming going to chop off your head. You're not going to actually die. So do not fear your emotions and your thoughts, no matter how scary they may be. They are just that. They're just energy, and they're not going to truly harm you. So do not fear them. Go into them, face them. They will harm you if you stop trying to feel them and if you suppress them. Okay? So if you have the courage, comes back to courage. If you have the courage to say, I think I am carrying some unresolved pain from my life, maybe my relationships, and maybe there is a tendency for breast cancer in my family, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to manifest disease. Go out there and get help. The therapist will help you look at that event in a very loving and compassionate way. They create a very safe space for you to be able to go face what happened, and then to release it, to heal it, to love it, to accept it, to forgive it, and to be able to move on from it. Right? That is essentially what any therapy process helps you do. Unfortunately, there are people who come into their 60s, 70s, and 80s and still remain psychologically immature because they haven't done the work to grow up. And I think one thing I want to leave from my talk today is that no one else can do your psychological maturation process for you. We each have the responsibility to wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up, as they say in therapy circles. We have to grow up, and we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And I feel very badly that we go through a 10 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 whatever education system, so many years of education, but nowhere are we taught these kinds of life skills or ways to grow our consciousness and become psychologically mature, unless you take up psychology and psychotherapy. But even that is more often about addressing the pathology when it's a problem, instead of being taught how to grow up into psychologically resilient and strong and emotionally healthy beings. Which is why I come to talks such as this. Every time I'm invited, I make sure I come and speak to as many people as I can, and I particularly have an interest in helping women. So that is why I'm here. I hope that answers your question, Harshali.
Yes, ma'am, perfectly. Thank you so much.
So let me now talk about the uterus and the ovaries from a mind-body connection. What are the kinds of thoughts and feelings and emotions that are associated with the uterine area, the ovarian area, that whole area, which is the other kind of women's cancers that show up. So, to share with you again, symbolically, ovaries and uterus represent creativity, because that's where we bring the egg from and, you know, fertilize it and then have the ability to bear life and give birth. Okay, so symbolically, the uterus and the ovaries are about creativity, sexuality, intimacy. It's about participating in life cycles and going with the flow. It's also about ethics, power, and money, because this is the prana chakra from which the life force, the material version of the life force is money and power and sex, right? So, if in any of these three areas, sex, power, and money, there is some sort of a blockage or trauma, then there is a chance that you will have problems physically in the uterine ovarian area. Symbolically, this part of the body for a woman is also about change. It's about the ability to continuously evolve and transform. And psychologically, this part of the body connects to issues with blocked creativity and inability to bring about change, okay? Or loss of control and carrying guilt and blame. It's also got to do with issues with spontaneity and inhibition. Again, remember, it's your prana, it's your Shakti, it's your life force. How do I express it in a way that's joyful or not? It's also about self-doubt and undervaluing oneself with regard to one's own potential or in relationships. So ask yourself certain questions, lines of inquiry. What does creativity mean to you? How do you come up with new ideas? How do you follow through on your ideas? And what do you really want to change? Some small or big things in yourself, in others, and in the world. How much of a spontaneous person are you? What makes you feel inhibited or constrained? How attuned are you to life cycles and rhythms? And when are you unable to go with the flow? How do you bring intimacy to relationships? When do you resort to using power instead? When do you tend to blame others to cover your own guilt? How comfortable are you with your sexuality? What do you express, suppress, or repress? How important are power and money to you? When would you compromise your values and ethics for their sake? To what extent and in what ways do you doubt or undervalue your talents and capabilities? Or do you sell yourself short? All these kinds of things can give you a sense of what may be stuck in this part of the body. And I hope you were paying close attention as I was calling out those questions, because your body is hearing me speak this as well. And maybe you are sensitive enough and you know how to listen to your body. You may even have felt some kind of a energetic twinge or something, right? Which is a sign for you to pay attention. So this is where so many women I have worked with, when I have seen them have either polycystic ovaries, for example, or too much bleeding, so issues to do with their monthly cycles, or then gone on to actually develop uterine cancer and so on. Very often, when I would work with them as a cancer coach, I would be able to discover that there was something around creativity, and some of these questions would be resonating for them, because they would be able to relate that, yes, there is, in my life, I chose not to have children, But on the other hand, perhaps I could have expressed my creativity, my life force, in some sort of a artistic way, which would have been another way to give life instead of giving physical life. And then they discover that it's never too late. They can still find a way to get that. It's called the second chakra in yoga, the Swadhisthana chakra. They can get it to start flowing again. They can get their prana shakti to start moving again. And very often, therapy for people like that, women like that, would be art therapy, music therapy, drama therapy. And then once they found their creativity again, they would be able to feel their Shakti flowing in their body again. And all these would contribute to the recovery of their immunity and therefore the recovery of their healing and making sure that the cancer did not recur. At the same time, it's not as if everyone who follows this holistic and integrative approach that we offer, it's not as if everyone heals. It is not easy. These kinds of emotional, mental, psychological issues are very, very deep rooted in our bodies, in our subconscious. And sometimes we're also entangled with our family system, people around us. So the system we live in and work in, our families, sometimes they themselves can be causing a lot of stress for us. And there are also spiritual ways to look at what has happened, and sometimes there is a karmic way to look at it. So not even though we work so hard with our clients to help them release any kind of identified psychological stress, not everyone heals. Not everyone cures. Not everyone gets cured, but that doesn't mean you can't heal. So we make the difference between cure and healing. So cure is when the cancer leaves the body and you fully fit and fine and you have many years ahead of you again, and it's out of your system. That would be the case of my husband, for example, or even my mother. My mother went through breast cancer in 1980-81, and she's still here today, and just an incredible fighter who has great resilience, emotional strength. My husband had his colon cancer in 2001, and he's completely fine. And he even says, cancer healed me, that it made him examine himself on all these levels: physical, emotional, mental, relational, spiritual, and therefore was able to make all the changes he wanted to. And today he believes he lives a better life than he did before the cancer. So that would be cure. But even if people's cancers are sufficiently advanced, and therefore maybe they do not necessarily physically recover, even if eventually they are going to have to die, unfortunately, too many people die from cancer. When we work with our cancer clients as coaches, we say we can help you heal. And healing is this everything that I've shared. Healing is the ability to love, accept, forgive, and let go everything that was difficult and traumatic in your life, so that you can make meaning from it in a way that is healthy and positive. You can see how there was growth that may have come out of it. You can be helped to find the good that came out of it. And if eventually you're going to die from the disease, you can die peacefully. You can die healed and resolved. You can die in a way that is forgiving and forgiven. So this is where it's very deep and very poignant to look at cancer through this psycho-spiritual lens, which I'm sharing with you today. You may not necessarily get cured from a cancer, but you can certainly use cancer to heal your life. So with that, I'll stop, and I'm ready to take some questions.
Ma'am, there is one question which has come, which is again related to maturity. So the
Yeah.
question is, when do you say that a person is mature? Can you give a few examples of maturity?
A person is mature when they take responsibility for their feelings and their thoughts and their behaviors. Okay? And do not act as if they are the victim of somebody else's um, thoughts and feelings and behaviors. So when you can be accountable, so someone may do something wrong to you, and are you capable of standing up for yourself? Are you capable of speaking up for yourself? Are you capable of communicating and calling out your boundaries and saying that was not acceptable? Or do you go around feeling like a victim, saying that was the bad person and they have done me wrong, and because of them, my life is now so sad, and because of someone else, I am living a less than optimum life? So, maturity means becoming emotionally, I would even say economically or financially independent, right? And if you can't become economically or financially independent, at least learn to become emotionally independent. So do not blame someone else for feeling bad. You have to take charge of your own feelings and emotions and well-being. If you can accept your role in what happened and ask yourself, what was it in me that allowed such a situation to take place? And what can I learn from that? Okay. And then go out and act on that. To me, that is maturity. When you learn to do self care, self love, and um, basically hold yourself accountable for the state of your life.
Thank
When
you
you
so
stop
much,
being,
ma'am.
when you stop being a victim of life or people and feeling powerless, and when you reclaim your power from a situation and you become a creator, you create your life, you make meaning from your life that is healthy and positive. You don't go around thinking someone else spoiled your life or did you wrong. You learn from what happened. You learn to see that neither friend nor foe, all alike, are our teachers. Each one is somehow growing us in some way. As I say, or as it said, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So, how are you taking everything that happens to you and learning and growing from it? That's maturity.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have one more question. Like you said, and it is always said that cancer affects the mind more, the heart more than the body. So, is it that these psychological problems come only during the person is facing cancer, or is it that it will also be there prevalent in the victims after they have healed from cancer?
No, 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 other way around. So, as I explained with psychoneuroimmunology and the mind body connection, there is a good chance that when a person gets cancer, unless they're real babies and that is a different, spiritual reason, etc. But if you're, a sufficiently older person and you're getting cancer now, there is a good chance that there was some sort of a stress in your life that you have not resolved, right? And it could be toxic emotions and toxic belief systems that you're holding on to, that you're stuck in, right? That will then somatize and become disease in the body. So it stops being psychology and becomes somatic, becomes soma. Soma means body, right? It somatizes into physical disease. So you can get cancer if you have held on to or been unable to work through a toxic emotional mental situation in your life. Okay, sometimes people are stuck in bad marriages, bad relationships for all kinds of reasons, um, or whatever else. After cancer, it's almost as if it's like salt on the wound, which is, it's bad enough that you had all this pain in your life, but now you also have cancer, and having to deal with cancer is hugely traumatic to the individual and then to the family around them. So there can be caregiver burnout. It's something that happened to me, just having to handle my mother and then my husband eventually took its toll on me. Like, you become such a caregiver emotionally, mentally, in so many ways that you can burn out and you can get depleted. Okay, so how do you watch for caregiver burnout? Because you can get stressed just taking care of someone else. Equally, the person who's going through cancer, my God, they're completely feeling betrayed by life. They are feeling shocked. They are feeling traumatized. They're going through so much shock and horror and sorrow and grief, and they don't necessarily have ways to express that. Correct? So there is additional stress. The only way you can make positive meaning from it, which is the way people like my husband have looked at it, to say, let cancer heal you. So if we had not been stressed, we would not have developed the disease. But now that we have developed the disease, let it be some sort of a wake up call for us to examine the deeper aspects of our life and put it in order as it should. Right? So let the cancer become the trigger, the impetus to work out the previous or pre-existing stress in your life, in your family, in your constellation, right? um, use the push that, unfortunately, most of us do not make change until some massive crisis happens. So if you can think of cancer as the necessary crisis to wake you up out of your entangled, stressful life and to make the changes you need to make, if you can do that, then cancer can serve you. After the cancer happens, you should ideally not carry stress further, because that means you will continue to put a pressure on your immune system, and then there's a chance for the cancer to recur. So there is no way around doing the hard work of removing our stressors out of our life.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
So we have a couple
So,
minutes. If there are no further questions, I can just show some slides I had.
sure, ma'am, sure.
Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So these are the two books I've written. My Cancer is Me, The Journey from Illness to Wholeness. This book I wrote with my husband, Vijay Bhat. I wrote a second book called Shakti Leadership, Embracing Feminine and Masculine Power in Business, with Professor Raj Sisodia of Babson College in Boston. And today I really want to talk about women's psychology and women's cancers, where being strong when it matters the most, and what does that really mean? And these are our websites, cancerawakens.com, shaktileadership.com, and my email ID, nilima@shaktileadership.com. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions. And in closing, I wanted to say that that three things. If you have to remember anything you take away from today, I want you to know three things. First is self-care, and this means becoming your own mother. Take care of yourself like a mother would take care of her daughter. Okay, do not depend on anyone else to do that for you. Put your oxygen mask on first before trying to help others. So self-care. Second is self-love, which is be your own lover. Do not look to any other person or significant other, any man in your life to come and complete you. First, complete yourself by loving yourself, validating yourself, acknowledging yourself. Be your own lover. And the third is to self express. Okay, be your own Shakti. Find that inner Shakti, that inner divine feminine, that inner goddess creative energy inside you, and express that in creative ways. Creativity, innovation, self expression, whether it's art or music or dance or poetry or writing, even sport, express yourself in the unique version of yourself that you are. That would mean becoming your own Shakti. So self-care, self-love, self-express. Be your own mother, be your own lover, be your own Shakti. And this is how you make sure you're going to secure your health and prevent disease such as cancer taking you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was actually, like I mentioned in the introduction, that it is an eye opening session. I must admit that it was an eye opening session. We got to know a lot about the psychological part when it comes to cancer. So, thank you so much for accepting our invite and blessing us with all the knowledge that you had. With this, I would also like to thank our director, Dr. B.H. Nilwani, for giving us such a great opportunity for arranging this session. I would also like to thank our HOD, our faculty members, our staff members, my team members who have been with me throughout for this program, and also the audience that has given their their evening time from 4 to 5, attending this session with their whole heart and mind. It is a great thing. And with this, I would like to end this session. Dada Shah.
Namaste. Thank you.